First, I think I would like to say about the concept of the Dancewood Festival is a very interesting event because of what begins to happen in the process of the work. And I think that it's very interesting that the structure of the workshop begins with the Feldenkrais method in the morning, and then from there it moves on into the dance language in the technique, and so there is an elaboration, an expressive elaboration, and also a technical elaboration. And then I find interesting that it moves then into the creative work in the afternoon, of the improvisations and the composition, which is really an excellent work process for students and young professionals to be able to explore like that. Actually, that's, I think, the most interesting part of the festival is that it's about exploring and finding new ways to create and discover each person has their own creative potential. And then in the evening, I think it's very positive the fact that there are these performances of works in progress, and that it creates the condition where people are able to talk about the work and try out, have to verify their creative process. And this is very important as a formative idea for dance, yes, which is so important. And regarding my work here, I'm teaching the Feldenkrais method, and actually having had such a long career with dance, because I am also a dancer and choreographer, and I began doing the Feldenkrais method some 13 years ago, and found a very interesting relationship between the somatic movement and the dance language. So what I brought here were lessons, the Feldenkrais lessons, which have to do with the intimate listening work and listening processes and movement, guided movement lessons, so that each person is able to become aware of how they organize themselves, and how it's also an incredible learning process for each person to really take the time to pay attention to oneself without having to show it, without having to bring it to the next level, which is the dancing. Yeah? So this work is sort of an open door towards other activity. This is the second year that I'm doing this here, and it's always such a great pleasure for me to work with dancers. Yeah, because there are lots of differences, because there is already some experience with movement, and also an intention. There's an intention about wanting to learn about the movement for an artistic motivation or creative motivation, or even just because it's a beautiful language. So, and I really appreciate that this kind of festival has this aspect of doing this kind of deeper work, very intimate work. Maybe I could explain a little bit about the Feldenkrais method, which has to do with the somatic movement, or the very human functioning of the movement, which is very interesting because our movement is changing all the time, and it's always modifying itself, adapting itself to conditions or to desires and motivations or necessity, yeah, which is also in the everyday life, but it's also in the artistic life. Yeah. And doing the Feldenkrais movement, I think, really brings people closer to what they would desire, what they are intending to do. Because we allow the time to learn how to do the movement, which is a very interesting question all the time. Yeah. Oftentimes in dance we find that we have to copy the teacher with an expectation from somebody else, from the outside. And with the Feldenkrais work, in the Feldenkrais method, we allow that the person finds it themselves. So they really are exploring their own capacities and their own sensitivity, their own thoughts also about language, about our languages, what we're living every day. I think it's very interesting that here what happens, which happened also last year, was that the people are from different countries, speak different languages, and have had very different experiences with movement. And I find it so interesting that even though we all come from and we speak different languages and have had we're different ages, that the common denominator that makes the festival really function and work well is the movement. It's about the movement language. And that with the movement we don't have to all speak the same spoken language. Because the movement is so universal, communicates so quickly. So just this, I think it's very nice that this is happening in Modena, yeah, or in the province of Modena. Near the nature, yeah, because movement is also natural. Is also our nature. So there's this condition